We've all been waiting a very, very long time for the expansion pack for Mountain Blade Bannerlord called War Sales. It's been delayed multiple times, but was it worth the wait? And most importantly, is it worth your hard-earned money? Structure of this video is going to be pretty basic. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of everything you're going to get in the new War Sales expansion. I'm going to do some impressions as I kind of go through it. Then I'm going to list out the advantages or what this expansion pack does well, and then I'm going to list out some of the disadvantages too, and then we'll end with which players I think this will be a good purchase for, and which players I think should probably stay away for this game, at least for the time being. So the War Sales expansion is exactly that. It is an expansion to the base game. It's not going to be something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or The Witcher 3 where you're getting a new city or a new story. I want to say it takes the base game of Mountain Blade Bannerlord and it makes it even more grandiose or maybe even more epic. And the first part of that is the expanded and the reworked map. You're going to notice to the north of Sturgia, there is a bunch of new land that has now been occupied, and this is going to be part of the Nord faction. And before we get to the Nords and we're at the map, let's just notice that there is a lot of water that has been added to this map, some rivers, and just kind of channels of water that cut through the map so that there's multiple ways to navigate through Calradia. And the Nord faction we've been talking about, they are very much themed on historical Vikings. If you think of the movie The Northman, if you guys have seen that great movie, you're going to see a lot of characters or a lot of troops that look very similar to the people in that movie. I'm a huge fan of anything Vikings, and I'm really enjoying the faction so far. And this faction, it's going to play a little bit different than any of the other factions that are currently in the game. First off, the Nord faction is the only faction that are only infantry. As you look through their troop trees here, you're going to see that there is actually no access to cavalry units. So it's all going to be infantry on the ground and ranged archer units. And what's cool about the infantry units here for the Nords is that they are extremely versatile. First off, they tend to wear more boiled leather chainmail armor, but they carry extremely big weapons. We're talking two-handed axes, one-handed axes, and they're hard-hitting, but they're not the most tanky units. Think of like a berserker or a DPS in an MMO game. You're basically loading up your army with extremely hard-hitting melee units. And probably the biggest thing about these infantry units is they are so versatile because almost every single unit in the unit tree has access to throwable ranged weapons, whether it's javelins or axes. And even the archer units, they feel a little more versatile than some of the other units on the other factions because while they are primarily ranged warriors, a lot of them, they have, again, similar armor to the melee units, but they also have decent sidearms to them too, so they're not bad in a pinch if they have to melee. And with how these troops are structured, it means that they're really good in two specific areas of this game. Castle sieges, whether you're attacking or defending, right? A lot of the factions have very large contingents of cavalry, and they're kind of like fish out of water on the land, right? They're kind of free kills, but we only have an infantry on the Nords, so they do great in those situations. And also the new area of the game, which I'm going to touch on in a second, which is Naval Warfare. And again, since so many factions, they have a lot of cavalry units, when they bring their horses onto ships, they actually count in the storage capacity, so they're going to bring less troops into the fight. Where the Nords, they don't have their problem, so they're bringing a full retinue of infantry. And on top of that, those throwing weapons that I mentioned earlier, that versatility is so strong on the Naval Warfare. Now let's talk about the crown jewel of this update, which is Naval Warfare, which the Naval Warfare is done insanely well, in my opinion. It is so complex, and there's so much depth and customization to it. They really did a great job, and I think this is going to be the part that brings most people into this update. Now, for starters, there is an incredible amount of depth and customization here. First off, the things that affect how you're going to navigate the oceans, of course, are the tides and the wind. If you have the wind at your back, you're going to move faster. If you're facing the wind, you're going to be like, stuck in the mud. And then, of course, the way the tide or the waves are moving is going to affect how your ships operate, too. Long ships filled with oars are going to do a little bit better going around the coastlines and the small channels or rivers, where bigger ships with large sails are going to do a little bit better on the open ocean. Ships are also very customizable. You can change which type of sails you're using. You can acquire different weapons to put on them. And this leads to different play styles that you can have. There are two different types of sails, either square or triangle. This affects how you deal or navigate with the wind. And what I really like is there's a bunch of different ways you can go about deciding how you're going to use your combat. You can load the ships with all archers and kind of just skirmish and go around the other ships, trying not to engage, but just shooting them and peppering them from a distance. On the more expensive ships, you can use ballistas or siege weapons, light them on fire, and even try to burn the ships down. Or you can even purchase or upgrade a battering ram to put on your front of the ship, and my favorite aspect is ramming enemy ships, which if you get a good hit on them, you can sink them or you can kill a ton of troops by knocking them overboard. Speaking of being knocked overboard, soldiers that have heavier armor or do not have the new Mariner trait because they're not Nords, those soldiers will actually not be able to swim for as long, and they will drown much quicker than the Nord troops. Now, there's also a new quest line that comes with the expansion pack. This is something that I think if you purchase the War Sales expansion, you should do first because it gives you a tutorial on how to use all the different aspects of the naval combat system. Now, I don't want to spoil too much, so I'll just say this quest is a great way to start your game as it gives you access to a lot more money than you would earn just running around killing looters, and it also earns you a lot more renown per battle, so you're able to get the clan tier 1 and 2 much quicker than you would have if you're just running around fighting randoms. Now, weirdly, we were under NDA where we weren't allowed to talk about the new quest line before the game releases, but I do want to say, as it's hyped as a quest, but to me it's more of a long tutorial on how to use the ships, and in an hour or two you're kind of on your way back to your normal campaign, so I don't know if I really consider it like some sort of big epic quest that should be a marketing point, but it is there. It's something that I probably won't necessarily play again after my first campaign. Now, with the War Sales update comes a free update, and in that free update, there are two things that you're going to get that are pretty big. One is the stealth system. Basically, there are now some sort of missions or quests where you can go in all stealthy. So it's going to be basically sneak, backstab, hide bodies, and rinse and repeat. I think this was originally supposed to be something that was an expansion pack thing, but I don't think the devs were too confident in the system, so they gave it out for free. And honestly, it feels to me like if Mountain Blade did stealth, it's a little tacked on. I've seen much better stealth systems in other games. Again, this is something that I'll probably do once or twice per campaign, but I don't think this is, to me, a really big selling point of the game. It's just kind of there. Another part of the update is there are now trade agreements and alliances, so you can decide which factions you're going to trade with, or if you want to ally with another faction to 2v1 against a common enemy. So now let's talk about the advantages that come along with this pack. First of all, the graphics look absolutely amazing in Bannerlord, and I think they've outdone themselves with how epic the naval combat and the water in this game looks. I know it's weird to say the water looks so good, but I think the first game that I was like, oh my god, this water is amazing, was Sea of Thieves. And while maybe the water in Bannerlord isn't up to Sea of Thieves level, it is really, really nice just watching how the waves move and how they crash against your ship. It's one of the better waters that I've seen done in gaming. Looks absolutely beautiful. The depth of the naval aspect of the game is going to keep you here for a long time. Again, I touched on the tremendous amount of depth with wind direction, tide, which sails you're going to use. There are a ton of different ships that you can use, and you can play in them in so many different ways. I think this is something that's going to add a tremendous amount of play time to your time with Mountain Blade Bannerlord, and I absolutely love the level of complexity that was here. Honestly, it's more than I could have ever expected. I also think with the naval combat added to the game, this is just another variety of play styles that are added. I think the thing with Bannerlord is no two players enjoy the game in the same way. So, right, you can decide now you're going to be a merchant sailing around the seas trading. You could be a pirate. There is actually new pirate enemies and pirate-themed cosmetics in the game. So you can run around just pillaging and probably never join a faction. You could be a pirate lord, a pirate prince, right? There's so many different aspects or ways you can play this. Or you can kind of do a mix of, hey, I'm going to go around through my fleet, fight what I fight, then I'm going to land at a castle, try to take it, and then rinse and repeat. I'm also a big fan of the map rework. I feel like it gives you more ways to go about waging war, right? Like in a vanilla Bannerlord, if you were traveling across an enemy's country or territory, right, there's a big chance you're going to run into multiple armies on the way there, so you can't really make too many creative plays. But now with the Naval Warfare, you can take your ship, sail all the way to the back of their faction, and hit some sort of flank play or attack a castle in the rear of their kingdom, and just kind of, it gives you another way to do things and make some more creative plays while you're playing. Now let's talk about some disadvantages of this War Sales update. First of all, it's a Tale World game, so if people who've been around since Bannerlord release can probably back me up on here, but expect bugs and crashes. For the most part, performance was fine on my PC. I had no issues, but I did run into two real big problems that were game crippling. First off, for some reason, I hit like day 500 on my campaign, and no matter what I do, day 500, 7 a.m., it will crash, right? I went back like an hour or two in saves, got to day 500, 7 a.m., crashes. No matter what I do, my first campaign was cooked, and I could not fix it. The second game-breaking bug that I had was when I was doing the new Questline. I was on the last quest, and I was a mercenary for the Nords, and somehow, some way, while I was doing that Questline, they declared war on Vlandia, where the quest basically, the hub of the quest is in Vlandia. So after completing the quest, I quick traveled to the city in Vlandia where it completes, and guess what? They wouldn't let me in because we were at war. So rather than take my ships and put me out in the ocean and let me, move around and wait it out, they just took away all my ships and dropped me myself in the middle of the ocean under the water, and I had no ship, I had no army, I had no items, and I couldn't move. Luckily, I was able to go back like 10 minutes to a save and just replay the mission again and remember to end my mercenary contract, but that could have been a game-ending bug too. I also feel like the quest line is more of a glorified tutorial, and it's something that was needed to really understand the complexity of the ships. If you don't do the tutorial, I think you're going to have a little bit of a trouble figuring out what's going on. But again, it's advertised as a big epic quest. To me, it was more of just a tutorial, and honestly, I skipped most of the text. It was okay. And while I said there are a lot of new cosmetics in the game, there are also some reused cosmetics. You're going to see some bear or wolf head armor that is reused or repurposed from the Sturgians or Batanians. And I just feel like new faction, we should get all new armor. While there is a lot of epic stuff, I really feel like we shouldn't be seeing stuff that is reused, especially after 5 years of waiting for this update. So who should buy this expansion for Mount & Blade Bannerlord? First of all, I think if you're someone who has spent hundreds of hours in this game and are still enjoying it, or you're a little burned out, but you're just a little like, hey, I love Mount & Blade Bannerlord, if you get this War Sales expansion, I feel like you can put hundreds of more hours into the game. It is really good, but again, it is like an expansion to the base game. You're still going to get a very similar gameplay loop that you know and love, but it's just going to be better in almost every way. At the same time, if you're someone who's been a long time Mount & Blader from the original Warband to Bannerlord, and you come back to the game every 6 months or so, play a campaign, then move on to other games, I think this is going to be something that you want to hop in and you want to play. I think it's going to be very refreshing to you to learn the new combat, the naval combat, play as the new faction. I think it's something that you're going to get a good amount of time out of. I also feel like if you're someone who's never played Bannerlord, but you've always been interested in it, you've seen videos and you've been thinking of diving in, there's no better time to jump in, because right now there is more content than the game has ever had, and I think it's the perfect time to get into the game. Now, who shouldn't buy Mount & Blade Bannerlord? If you're someone who's been disenfranchised with the Bannerlord series, I know there are a lot of people who are very nostalgic for Mount & Blade Warband. I mean, I am myself. But if you've never been able to say, Mount & Blade Bannerlord is a game that I enjoy, and you're always complaining about bugs, always complaining about glitches, you're going to get more of that stuff that you don't like in Mount & Blade War Sales. So if that's the case, I think you're someone who should probably stay away from the game. If you're also someone who was looking for a different type of gameplay loop from this update, you've been spoiled by things like Kingdom Come Deliverance that come out with different storylines and different locations, I feel like you're not going to feel like you're getting your money's worth with this expansion pack, because this is basically just taking the game that is Mount & Blade Bannerlord and making it better. As I said, it's a true expansion pack. It's just expanding the game, but it's not giving you anything new or different. All right, guys, I hope the video was helpful. If you do end up buying Mount & Blade Bannerlord War Sales, here is a coupon code that you can save money with it. So I'm going to pin that in the comments and everything. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe. Champ out.